Could you find the recording? I'm also a career mentor with Dhaya. I'm sure you'll all be wondering on and looking forward to some great insights and pearls of wisdom. United Nations. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Usha Ishwaran. Dr. Usha, it's an honor. And has a doctorate from Jawaharlal Technology.
Hello. Am I audible? Thank you, Vikas. I think we can go into the session. So today we are here to discuss about teen parenting. As Vikas has introduced me, I am Dr. Usha Ishwaran. I'm a planning board member in Trivandrum University and also a CEO of the company Seek, where we seek services like academic consultancy, career guidance, skill development, etc. And I'm an educationist, entrepreneur, career analyst, professional life skill coach, motivational speaker, NLP master practitioner, and a public speaking coach. I have around 30 years of experience and addressed more than 20 lakhs of people and trained more than a lakh of students and placed more than 10,000 students and also counseled more than a lakh of people. And today we are in the event of teen parenting. So why are we talking about teen parenting? Is it was so difficult? Yes, parenting has become a daunting task for most of the parents in the current times. The reason why parenting has become quite challenging is due to the fact that our lifestyle is rapidly changing with newer requirements and the demands being instilled into our lives. Gone are the days when fathers had to go for work while mothers had to stay back at home and looking after the household duties and raising kids. In recent times, everything has been changed. New parenting styles are being adopted by the parents, and to fulfill the newer demands and requirements and to accomplish the economic stability of the family, both fathers and mothers have to work, as a result of which their attention towards their kids become divided. The ratio of women staying back at home to look after their kids has seen a decline over last few years. Maintaining a balance between the parenting duties and work has become fairly stressful for today's parents, as a result of which they find parenting quite challenging. And the challenges, especially with this 21st century, is a scarcity of time and failure in imparting moral values, imbalanced life, and lack of emotional bonding. Today, many adolescents, college bound young adults, and graduates evidence being unarmed with skill sets and coping mechanisms. They can't deal effectively with the colleagues or the challenges they are represented, and instead continue to demonstrate expectations that the world will treat them in the same manner their parents did. And of course, are surprised at the outcome. We see young adults jumping from one job or the opportunity to the other, or taking an elongated time to finish college, and often returning home due to failed attempts at launching. In general, they are not developing the kind of independence and capability to deal effectively with life's challenges. So, in some cases, these young people demonstrate depression, anxiety, panic attacks, engage in self harm, or make poor decisions that impact their success. This is primarily because parents weren't involved early on and throughout their life, directing, modeling, and coaching them away from these sometimes negative alternatives they have now turned around. So now in this today's session, I would like to share some of my views about good parenting and the successful parenting. And definitely parenting can never be taught. It has to be learned. Actually, we don't have to graduate about parenting on any college or any university. We need to just study and learn our child. That is how we can become a good parent. So let me start narrating your small incident. That's a true incident in everybody's life, where even I am undergoing the same. So there was one old lady and a young lady. In this picture, we are seeing this, and the story also, we are going to have these two people. And they were living in the same apartment, but they didn't have an opportunity to talk to each other. But they were smiling at each other whenever they cross each other. So the old lady, she had a very charming smile, and she loved this young lady because of her charming smile too. So one day when she saw her in the supermarket, the young lady was very puzzled and very tensed. And though she saw the old lady, she was not smiling back. So this old lady thought, like, okay, she has lost somewhere. She has lost her thoughts somewhere, and we need to rectify it and find out. Then she went near to the young lady, and she offered, like, why don't you come to my house and have some tea? The young lady smiled, but there was no life in her smile, and she went along with the old lady to her house. Then the old lady prepared tea, and by the time, the young lady was just looking around the house and then asked the old lady, like, how beautiful your house is. It is very neat and well organized, very, very amazing to see. But see, if you come to my house, I have to just organize it again and again and again. My children are very, very naughty. They just break things. They just undo things, whatever I do. And I'm just fed up. I'm really worried. I'm really fed up bringing up these teens. And they don't listen to my words. They don't study. They don't sleep in time. Lot of complaints she started telling to the old lady. And then she asked her, do you have children? Why your house is so neat? Don't your children come and disturb your cleanliness of the house? Then the old lady sat next to her, and then she was recollecting. She said, yes, I do have two children, but they're all grown up and they're all in US. Both of them are settled there in America, and they come and visit me once in 3 years. So she was telling, the older lady was telling to the young lady, like, please never tell that children are trouble to you, because one day, like me, you may have to sit quiet, idle, alone, and you may have to have some memories about your children, because all the naughtiness, all the things the kids do, like, you can never get back when they grow up. Now I'm just waiting, won't my children come back and make my house clumsy? Because those days, even I was like you, I was just begging and praying, God, when these children will grow up and when I can sit relaxed without taking care of all these things. But don't do that, my dear parents, my dear ladies and gentlemen. This is a story which you have to take it into your heart, because children are children. You need to enjoy each and every moment of them, from the day they are born. Every minute, every second, whatever has gone is gone. It will not come back. So you should not regret for what they do. You should enjoy and keep it as a memory, because all the pranks and all the naughtiness what they do, that will change when they grow, and they'll become responsible. All things are just like passing clouds. But don't think that it is a strain for you to take care of your children, and all the mischievous things whatever they do is going to be a trouble for you, because that is something, a memorable thing which you will be sharing with your grandchildren about your children. So you need some memories. So always enjoy whatever they do, and travel along with them, and don't waste a single minute also regretting about your children. That is what I would like to start with, because that is what I'm doing now. And all these the teens, like, they grow learning through their activities. So allow them to learn through their activities, and also allow the teens to live with the consequences of their choices. Like, sometimes they need to know, like, what is good, what is bad. Every time if we keeping hand holding them and then telling them you have to do this, that, and all, they will not learn. Some small things, let them do, let them feel the consequences and learn from those consequences. That is good parenting. And also giving boundaries. Many people will be just covering them, like, with their arms, and they don't want the children to go out from their boundaries. So allow them to go, allow them to learn and be responsible. Stand away and observe, and you will really know that they are capable of doing a lot of things. And definitely the parenting is a wonderful challenge, because adolescent is nothing but the toddler stage of adulthood. They are just baby in the adulthood, and they begin to think differently. Everything will change in them, like physically, mentally, hormonal wise, everything, physical changes. They just won't be able to explain you how they are feeling. So we need to understand, because we have crossed those ages. Their brain takes longer time to mature, and also physical changes takes place, and teens don't understand the changes. They don't know why these things are happening. So your little boy and the little girl is changing because of the adolescence. Enjoy every moment and understand them. So what is that the child thinks about the parent? This is very, very important, because when the child is a child, a baby, what happens is the parent is the hero. Mother and father are the heroes and heroines. Like, whatever you say, they'll believe, and they'll feel that there is no one in the world is better than you. So the child will learn and copy whatever you do. And as they grow, what happens? They become growing child, and the external influences will come into the child, and he will tell you the stories of his or her teacher at school and the friends, and she will talk about the teacher's words, and she will say that the teacher is correct always. So there will be a shift from seeing you as a hero, and there will be someone else is also entering into their mind as a hero. So these things happen. Okay, fine. What happens in the teen? This is very, very essential, because you will hear less stories from school, about friends, about their own self from the children. Actually, they will stop talking much to you. They will be less interacting to you. So that will be a surprise for you. You may feel that they're going away from you. All these signs are for teens. This happens in everybody's life, and teens begins to question. All these days they will be nodding their head saying, yes, 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 whatever you said is right. But now they will ask questions like, why should I do? justify me, why should I do or why shouldn't I do, and they will not accept whatever you say. So this we all see in everybody's life. As teen, instead of children saying mom and dad I don't understand, what we will hear, they will we will feel that they are saying that you don't know anything, mom and dad. Same thing happens, like they wanted you to listen to them and then answer. But what we do, ours is a one way communication, isn't it? We always wanted to talk and we want the children to listen. So at teenage, the children feel like, why don't you listen to me also, mom and dad? Why don't you listen to my opinion also? So they wanted to actually communicate to you that you are not understanding me, but the words will come out like you don't know anything. Every child will tell the father and mother that you don't know anything. What we will feel, I'm grown up, I'm more experienced, I'm the one who taught you to walk, I'm the one who taught you to read and write, and you're telling me that I don't know anything. This happens in everybody's life. So that is what is the teenage is all about. And how do we prepare our children for future? This is the biggest challenge, especially now, because we need to teach about how they should think and how to respond to stress, how to make their own decisions, and how to live with consequences. This is very, very important. And what are the needs of the teen? Teen wants to be loved and to feel included, and they want to feel in control, not in your control. They wanted to feel that their life is in their control. That is what is the difference between your thinking and their thinking. And these are the four important problems faced by the parents. First one is 4 A's, that is argument, anger, arrogant, and aloneness. We see all the children having this argumentative behavior. Whatever you say, they will argue. Yes, why? Questions will come into their mind. So as a child, they listen to us without questions, but as a teen, they have differing opinions on every issue. So they tend to be argumentative. So these four things are the main problems of the parent. Argument leads to frustration, and anger turns to conversation, and it sounds arrogant. This is what happens. As they grow, they tend to maintain a distance from parents. They no longer share their stories with the parents about the school or their friends, and they prefer being in a company of friends, and they prefer being alone. If you call them to go for a marriage or a family function or anywhere, they will not come. They will say that leave me alone, I'll stay happy here, because the reason is you will be always giving advices, and they won't listen. They don't like that, and they know pretty well that when you take them for a family function, you will call one uncle and say please advise him. So the boy knows that even in the family function there will be an advisor there, as in the form of an uncle or someone, some elderly person, maybe your teacher or someone who will be there in the family function. Again, they'll have to listen to all those advices. So they will say better, I'll stay at home, I'm not coming anywhere. So this every one of us have experienced. We'll have to beg them to come, and the answers, solutions to all these problems are again 4 A's. One is accept, appreciate their efforts, advice from others, and ask. So you need to know how to accept them. That is very, very essential. View of child are different from us, and we should accept the reality. Accept the argument, accept that he or she will not accept your opinion. There is nothing wrong in this. Parents feel what their views are not accepted by the child, they are bad parents. How many of you have felt, if the child doesn't listen to you, you will feel that I'm a bad parent, I don't know parenting? Many of them come to me at the age of middle age, and then they'll tell like, I don't know parenting. I'll ask them, how did you bring up your children all these years? So when children don't respond to you, listen to you, you yourself think that you're a bad parent. The same way, child will also think that you're a bad parent. It happens in everybody's house. Why there should be a big doubt? Everybody has. Even Mahatma Gandhi's children felt that he was not a good parent, and everybody in this world has experienced it the same. And second one is you need to appreciate. We tend to recognize each small action of the child when they are young and enjoy it with the child. Like the first time he called him mom and dad, oh my God, how happy we felt. And the first time he learned to stand, mom will be ready with the camera of the mobile phone to click a photo of the first time the child stands and post it in the Facebook. So this first moments of everything we used to enjoy, the child is so happy that till 5 years, all the things, whatever they do will be appreciated. First time he recognized you and smiled, how happy you will feel. And what happens later, but as they grow up, we tend to be less attentive and respond with similar joy and enthusiasm. Just think, did you share the same emotion with your child the first time he showed with the trophy he won in the sports? Now if he comes whatever, he say, okay, I know you will get it, go and keep it in the showcase. So that is not the response the child expects. The smallest appreciation, the smallest win, or the whatever success they get, they expect you to appreciate. The same level of appreciation is what they expect. This lack of appreciation leads to anger and frustration. The intensity of this anger is directly linked with the degree of appreciation. They desire and seek your recognition. Appreciate their efforts. We must note their smallest progress and appreciate. Despite our day-to-day efforts, we need to sit down and discuss and appreciate our daily activities, including those of children. See, when you ask anybody who is working day and night, extra hours, earning lot of money, they'll say, I'm doing all these things for my children's sake. Well, you have a lot of money, but why don't you spend some time with your child? The child is so precious to you. You're earning all this money. The child is not going to eat and enjoy with the money. They need your love and affection. You need to sit with them, talk to them, understand them, exchange ideas. This is what is very, very essential in parenting. And in those days, actually, some practices were there laid by the forefathers had been introduced, like praying together, eating together. But with this modern needs, we have let gone all these practices, and with these going, our problems have increased. You can see that children are alone at home. They sit in each room and they eat on their own. They watch TV because they don't have people to talk to. Earlier days, like I remember we were in the joint family. We'll have one hall, one bedroom, one kitchen, and one bathroom. And we will all be spending the entire day in the drawing hall. Everything we'll do in the drawing hall. We just watch TV, talk to people, play some games, indoor games, and then do our homework. Everything we will do in our drawing hall, where all our relatives will be observing us, all our relatives will be talking to us, and only for sleeping we'll go to bedroom. But now everybody is in their own room, locking their room with their own gadgets. They don't even have a physical contact. They don't even see each other's face. The mother is in with one phone and the child is with one phone, and mother is sending a WhatsApp picture of the food she has prepared, and the child comes jumping to eat the food. That is what is the world is going now. And we need to come out of all these things and develop a lot of emotional connectivity. Look at the children. First of all, look at them, feel them, touch them, hug them. All these things are what is needed for the child. Don't make the child feel that they are alone or they are feeling bored. Never that word should come out of your child's mouth, actually, because that is very, very important. All these kids, they get addicted either to some TV serials or some TV shows or some Big Boss, where they worry about what will happen to the Big Boss house family members rather than what will happen to our own family members. So that is what is happening, and we have to be very, very careful. And especially when they come to this exam, actually when you get the receipt of exam results, like we need to sit with the child and appreciate the efforts put in by them instead of discussing about marks. We all do that. We just take part in the results, but not in the process. So that is not correct. We need to appreciate the process, for which you need to be with them to understand the process. So if you discuss marks, they'll develop arrogance. And we need to tell them about that you will have your results if you put in efforts. So we need to club these two and tell that put your efforts, automatically results will come. And once again, the other thing is the teenagers, they always want adventure and excitement. They wanted to show off. They have a lot of energy in them and they wanted to show their excitement. And so such activities, the parents have to take them and do. Maybe in the lockdown, you may not be able to do. You can do some indoor games like friendly pillow fighting, boxing, taking children, running here and there, hide and seek. All those games you can play, but make them energetic and let them feel that excitement and adventure. And all these things, like when you are able to go out after the lockdown, please make sure that you give them a lot of adventurous activities. Otherwise, they'll seek for it somewhere else. And next one is the advice from others, because as the children grow, after interacting with many people in the world, like they'll start finding some fault in the parents. The main reason is the parents will be preaching something, but sometimes they don't follow that, they don't practice. So they will be talking about ethics and morals, and when they stand in the traffic signal, when the green light is not on, they will say, they will start the vehicle, and the child will ask, no, 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 the green has not come, but still the father will say that no vehicle is there, so we can go. So this sort of mismatch between your principles and the practices will make the child feel different about you. Actually, we will be going away from their mind, and they will start identifying the weakness and drawbacks of the parents, and also they also see how the parents interact with others, maybe with your servant maids or with your own family members, your wife, your neighbors, all those things, discussions, whatever you do, they will be listening. So they create some impression about you, and they will not be able to have the same hero opinion about you even now. So now you can take the suggestion and help of your friend or some experts whom the child admires, and send them to coaching classes or experts who can advise them. So you can take the help of someone if the child will not listen to you. Then ask. This is very, very essential. When the children are young, we always give suggestions and don't ask any questions. And ego comes in teenage, and in that stage, the child does not accept or listen to your suggestions. If you force, the child will get angry. So at least from now, please understand, not to suggest directly, but seek his opinion on what to do. So here is a situation where don't tell the children to stop watching TV and start studying. Instead, reframe as to when he or she wants to study. Encourage them to make a decision and take a decision. Help them to plan their activities better. This way, they will start taking decisions and become more responsible. When you begin to ask, then their anger and argument reduces. Practice to stop giving direct advice and begin to ask for solutions. So that is the best way to make them understand and be more responsible. So whenever you want to give them a direct advice, try to practice them giving options. Give them options. So like instead of telling them like you want to study, whether you want to study after watching the TV from 7 to 8 or 8 to 9, or you wanted to study and then watch TV. Give them the option. Let the child decide. So when he makes a decision, then probably he will follow it definitely. And if you don't listen to the little things when they are little, they won't tell you the big things when they are big. So please, they may be saying silly things, but listen to them. Give some time for them. So these are the 4 things, the problems faced by the teen parenting and the solutions for the same. And I'm going to narrate you a small story. The child actually goes to a balloon seller, and she's asking like, I want a balloon. And the balloon seller gives her the red balloon, and she's asking like, okay, this red balloon is flying high. Will that blue balloon also fly high? Will that black balloon also fly high? Will that pink balloon also fly high? The child kept on asking questions. The balloon seller was feeling irritated, and he said, of course, every balloon will fly. It is not depending on the color of the balloon. It is the air or the gas that is filled inside. That will be the answer of the balloon seller to the girl. And the girl will be surprised to see like whether she thinks like only the color of the balloon makes it to fly, but he says that the air or the gas that is filled only makes it to fly. Ladies and gentlemen, in the same way, whether we rise in our life, whether we grow in our life, does not depend on our beauty or the way we look. It does not depend upon the personality, our abilities, or our qualifications. Actually, they're all like colors of the balloons. Actually, what happens is whether we rise up in our life depends upon our consciousness, our faith, our attitude. They are all like the air or the gas that fills in the balloon. That is why we say, don't just focus on your personality. Try to become a good person. Actually, if your child becomes a good person, if you improve their consciousness, faith, and attitude, then the personality is like the color of the balloon. I'm not saying that you should not have the personality. I'm not saying that personality should not be improved. But while focusing on the personality, don't forget to become a good person and make your children the same. To achieve all this, first of all, we should start practicing the same. And if you want the change the condition of your life, then change the direction of your life. Actually, the transforming your life involves going beyond the way you live. That is what is important. If an individual has a calm, state of mind, his attitude and views will be calm and tranquil, even if in the presence of a great agitation. So this is very, very important for the children, because in this teenage they will be agitated. The spiritual grounding is the practice that is very, very important to bring the physical strength and the emotional balance. Please don't ignore that at all. This is very, very important for the children to bring to balance condition. And about the social media, everybody will have this problem, especially in the lockdown. Every child will be behind this, and it is like a knife actually. If it cuts the vegetables, you can cook. If it cuts your finger, you can just go to the doctor and get it healed. But if it cuts or it kills a person, then you have to go to the prison. So this is what is the harmful effects of the social media, and all these things should be discussed with the children, and especially the screen addiction what they have. And all these years, like, we were calling them as teenagers, but now I call them as screenagers, because many of them are with screen. Not only the teenagers, even in our age, everybody is with the screen, and a lot of things affects because of this. Physical activity is reduced, it affects the children health, mental ability reduces, and an increased probability of forgetfulness and mental health issues comes into picture. And why in earlier times, actually, why are we all getting addicted to these digital devices? In earlier times, mother used to feed the children telling stories like, today mother gives a cell phone and plays a video game, and make them child sit in front of a TV and gives food. You will be surprised if I say that the global leaders, the employees of Facebook, Microsoft, Apple, do not use mobile or internet for the children at home till they become 16 years. You know about this Steve Jobs, who was the one who created the mobiles. He was interviewed once by his friend asking, like, why are you not allowing the access of your mobiles to your children? Then he replied, like, I created a demon, and I know how the demon will cause the damage to the children. So the frontal cortex of the brain growth will be affected if they are too much involved in non-academic, non-learning activities in the mobile. So how do we do this? What is the solution for thought? You can have a bigger screen will have some distance will be there, so that can be made use of. And other one is, like, we should be an example. First of all, if we start sitting and browsing our net and chatting with friends with WhatsApp and Facebook and Instagram, what will happen to the children's stage? They will also do the same thing. So we need to be an example. Children see you as a model to copy. Parents must attempt to reduce their mobile and TV time in front of the children. Actually, the problem isn't that children aren't respectful towards the adults. The problem is that the adults aren't respectful towards the children, because disrespected is a learned behavior. They just see us and they learn. And also, we should not use the gadget as a babysitter, and we should also teach the children to have social skills. They need to know how to mingle with people. They need to know how to talk to people. Communication, socialization is very essential. But now the socialization is totally in digital form. They don't know how to respect elders when they come home. So all these things have to be taken care, and you need to involve them into a lot of physical activities. They need to have a lot of blood circulation if you want the child to be happy, healthy, and also to study well in their exams, do well in their exams, and understand the concepts and perform well in their life. So you have to enroll them in different activities like drawing, painting, dancing, so many activities which they like. First of all, find out, identify what they like. The interest of the child is very, very important. That is very important. And then you have to bring a device-free dinner habit. Definitely from today onwards, my dear ladies and gentlemen, please bring a device-free dinner, because the food is something which you need to concentrate while eating. You need to give signal to the brain what you're eating, and you need to chew it. Actually, you need to chew and drink the solids and chew the liquids. You need to chew nearly 40 times when you take a mouthful of food. So teach that to the children. Only then the signal about the food will go to the brain, and the brain will give a signal to the intestine to digest what sort of food is coming there for digestion. So all these things are very, very essential. So when you're eating something, please switch off all your mobile phones, everything, digital devices, and then sit and eat. Concentrate on what you're eating. Talk good things when you're eating. So gadgets should not be allowed, because you will not have any emotional attachment. And also, I have a suggestion, like, when you're eating, talk about good things. Develop the attitude of gratitude towards the children. Thank God, thank all those people who have done good things in your life. So this is very, very essential, and you need to make it as a practice. You see here, the husband and wife are discussing about how they are through mobile phone, just sitting across the table, but they are messaging like, how was your day? And she says like, good, and how about you? So all these things actually build a lot of gap between your relationships, and you have to take care of this. And the next one is actually handling failures. You see a lot of pressure for the children when which leads them to a lot of wrong decisions as they fear rejection. So we need to teach the teens that failure is a great thing. Most kids are afraid to fail, and as parents and teachers, we naturally want our kids to succeed. But what if we recognized failure is good and a crucial step on the path to learning? Failure is necessary component of success. In fact, our brains grow and develop in important ways whenever failure occurs. When kids understand this concept, amazing things can happen in their life for them. And they need to learn about the growth mindsets. We already know developing a growth mindset empower kids. It also changes their reaction to failure. Failure is inevitable, but by focusing their attention on what went wrong and how they could be fixed, kids with growth mindsets were able to turn failures into positive learning experiences. Tell them, praise them for their efforts, strategies, progress, hard work, persistence, rising to a challenge, learning from mistake, and not for the talent, being smart, born gifted, fixed abilities, and not making mistakes. Don't do that. Let the child know which one is to be praised for, the effort. And another very important mantra is power of yet. Say to them, you can't do it yet. You don't know it yet. If you learn and practice, you will definitely do it one day. So that hope and confidence should be there for the child. And recognize your own mindset, first of all. Be mindful of your own thinking and the messages you send with your words and actions. And ask the children, what did you do today that made you think hard? What new strategies did you try? What mistake did you make that taught you something? What did you try that was hard today? These questions have to be asked because they will start thinking about it. 1% improvement every day is must for every one of us. And success is not if you don't face failures. According to me, if you fail and learn from failure, that is what is success. And say to them that mistakes help you improve, and you can learn from your mistakes, and let's see what other strategies you can try. So there is no end for it. You need to tell them that yes, still go on, learn something more, let the failure happen. Kids benefit from experiencing failure. We know this, and yet it's hard for adults to accept. In fact, many parents equate good parenting with preventing their kids from struggling. If you feel that your kids are not struggling, then you feel that you're a good parent. It's not like that. Let them learn from failure, because always we cannot go along with them. We have seen a lot of uncertainties in life today, and lot more to come tomorrow. So we need to face it. You need to live with what is happening and go with the waves. And challenging experience are the only way we develop certain coping and problem solving skills. If we shield the children from adversity, key brain connections cannot develop. Don't shield them from adversity. Let them go. Allowing for small failures now teaches a child the skills to deal with and perhaps even avoid bigger ones later. And also embrace and celebrate the failure. Nothing wrong with that, because that is an opportunity for you to learn. So you need to celebrate it. Failure is an excellent teacher. So why not celebrate each time it happens, knowing a new opportunity just arrived? Yes, I got an opportunity to learn. And also, learning pit is a simple and effective way to frame the ideas for teens. When faced with a challenge, all of us must voyage into the pit of uncertainty. Thoughts like I have failed, I'm stuck, or just clues that deeper thinking and learning are happening. That's very important. Another very important thing is hug your children and demonstrate your love, affection, and happiness. This will create and enhance a certain oxygen enriching toxins that creates happiness and good emotions that benefit the child. And also you have to concentrate on healthy food, and also a quiet uninterrupted sleep for 7 to 8 hours. and there are certain do's and don'ts for the parents actually. So take responsibility. This is one of the most important thing which I would like to tell you. Like, don't make excuse for a situation from your failure. If you fail, accept it. Then the child will know that yes, failure happens in life, everybody life. It's not that my mom doesn't fail or my dad doesn't fail. Let them know it. Accept your failure. Don't say any excuses should not be there. If you start giving excuses, the child will also start giving excuses. So you have to be responsible. And one of the most meaningful gifts a parent can give to a child is to acknowledge their own mistake, to say, I was wrong here, or I'm sorry. This is so powerful because it also gives the child permission to make a mistake, to admit having messed up and still be okay. So this is very, very essential. And don't talk ill about others in front of the children. That is very, very bad. Don't gossip, don't criticize, and don't make the children to witness in all your gossips. And be a role model. In front of children, actually, the husband and wife should not fight or should not talk bad about others or should not blame each other. So these are all something which you have to take into consideration. And another one is the effective admonishing. Some people misunderstood between the scolding and shouting. We scold a child. Why do we scold a child? Actually, we wanted to teach the child what is right and what is wrong. That's all. Then why do we confuse about all these things? Why do we lose our temper? This is something which we have to understand. Scolding is different from shouting. There is no need to raise your voice. You need to just make them understand with a strong voice, with a polite manner. So then the child will understand. You should not yell at them. You should explain the reason why you are stopping the child doing certain things. And don't use harsh words or abusive language. And of course, hitting is absolutely wrong thing. You should never do this hitting at all. And many people will have a question like whether the parents should not scold their child. There is no second opinion that the parents should scold their child when they do mistakes. But before you scold him or her, take a moment to think, is the child really wrong? Or you are just venting out your pent-up frustration to him or her? This is what we need to understand. You would have had a bad day in your office and just you can't come and shout at your child. Think where he is wrong. If he is wrong, go back and think whether you have guided him and still he is wrong. So you need to support the children and then make them, teach them what they should do in a right manner. And that is what is very, very important. Scolding is not equal to shouting. Scolding becomes efficient only when you're polite, respectful, and guide the child towards the right path. It no longer stays a scolding but becomes a guide for your child. Child should enjoy whatever you say. The role of parents. Now, another very, very important thing is the peer pressure what the children get. And every teenager go through this phase of peer pressure when influence of their peers is greater than their own voice. Peer pressure can have both positive and negative impacts on an individual. It is important for parents to recognize the difference between the positive and the negative peer pressure. In addition, parents can play an essential role in helping the teenagers deal with the peer pressure. So what is this peer pressure? Peer pressure is a situation where the teen feels compelled to do something because they want to be part of the social circle and they want to be valued. So this is because they are not being recognized and they are not being appreciated. They are not being made confident and they were not given the self-esteem feel. And whose responsibility is that? It is our parent. We are responsible for making the child feel self-esteemed, self-confident. So why does peer pressure influence the teens? What is the importance of the peers' opinion? Why do they listen to them? Teenagers lay a lot of emphasis on the opinion of their friends and the larger groups. Often teen makes themselves aligned with the larger groups instead of staying independent. Why does this happen? There will be a rapid teenage transformation happening and several mental and physical changes occur during these adolescent years. There is a natural urge to forge friendships with those of the same age or those going through similar changes in life. The teen feels that the best way to become friends with someone is behaving in the same manner as their peers do. This is what happens. If they wanted to be included in that group, they wanted to do what others do, though they don't like. So this leads to a lot of bad habits, a lot of bad things that happen just to satisfy others. They will get into unwanted things in life. They will even go into risk taking just because of the peers compulsion. And there are certain negative signs of peer pressure, that is a sudden change in the behavior, or the teen speaks in monosyllables. Everybody in your house, you will be knowing, they will not even answer to your question. They will just keep their face serious and nod their head, or they won't even say that, or they will say yes, no, that's all. They won't talk to you like before. So these are all the signs of peer pressure. And negative peer pressure, actually they seem depressed, and the teen gets angry with simple matters, small things. They'll get angry, and they will have improper sleep. They will not sleep properly, and they will be sleeping at odd times, and also their physical appearance will change. That is why I said, look at your child, see their physical appearance, whether it is changing, how they look and other things. And another main thing is they don't eat properly. They have loss of appetite and trouble eating, and they will withdraw themselves from the group they were in. So all these signs we have to keep in mind. And the way how the parents can help, actually you have to establish a strong communication bond with the child. You need to be with them. You need to be with them with some limit. You should not go too close to them, or you should not go too far from them. And parents need to be more involved in the daily life of their children. Get involved, not by pressure, but by passion. They should call you, they should invite you, because your presence should make them feel comfortable. So that is how you have to go. And next is set rules for the family. You need to maintain discipline, definitely, and encourage the child to establish and maintain healthy family relationships. Sit along with them, sacrifice some of your time for something else, and spend time with your children. That is very, very essential. And improve the decision making power of the children. Allow them to take some decision. Let them feel good. Yes, I'm an adolescent. I'm given responsibility to take decision. And also teach the children how to say no to certain things. If they have pressure from their friends also, they should have the guts to say no, and also wrong things. And also encourage the children to indulge in healthy activities. Allow them to play, allow them to do painting, allow them to sing, allow them to dance. Let them do whatever they want, they like, because they are the motivators for them for the life. If they don't have all those things, their life will be lifeless only. They will not feel life in whatever they do. And you have to boost the self-esteem and self-confidence in the child. This is very, very important. Sometimes it's easy to notice when kids seem to feel good about themselves and when they don't. So first of all, we should feel good about ourselves. That is very, very essential. And for children, self-esteem often comes from knowing that they are loved and they belong to a family that values them. The family should first value the children, then only the world will value them. First of all, we should give value to our children. That is very, very important. And kids with self-esteem, see how nice they are. They feel liked and accepted. They feel confident. They feel proud of what they can do, and they think good things about themselves, and they believe in themselves. And what happens to people when you see something beautiful in someone, tell them. It may take seconds to say, but for them, it may last a lifetime. So if you see something good about your child, tell to the child. Nothing wrong in that. You don't have to feel ego in that. And kids with low self-esteem, see how depressed they are self-critical and hard on themselves, feel they are not as good as other kids. They think of them times they fail rather than when they succeed, and they lack confidence, and they doubt they can do things well. They will have doubt on their own confidence level. So these are all the things where we need to concentrate, and we need to improve their self-esteem. Kids who feel good about themselves have confidence to try new things. They are more likely to try their best. They feel proud of what they can do. Self-esteem helps children cope up with mistakes. It helps kids to try again and again, even if they fail. As a result, self-esteem helps the kids to be better in school, at home, and also with their friends. But if the kids have low self-esteem, they will be unsure of themselves. If they think others won't accept them, they may not join in only in the group. They may let others treat them poorly. They may have a hard time everywhere, wherever they are. So let us not allow our child to have a low self-esteem. So more than anyone else, how can we develop the self-esteem? We as parents, we need to be encouraging them. We need to appreciate their efforts. We need to support them. We need to be a very happy, smiling face, first of all, to see the child smiling. And tips and tools how to build self-esteem. When you feel good about your child and things they do, mention it to the child, and be generous with praise in situations where your child is doing a good job and displaying a talent. Teach your child to practice making positive self statements, and teach your child about decision making, and spend quality time with your child. This is very, very important. Spend quality time. You don't have to sit for 24 hours with your child, but you need to spend quality time with your child. And what you should avoid, tell exactly what they should do. Don't just tell a big story so that they get irritated. So don't always be on advising mode. Tell them that this is not good and these are all the consequences and you should not do. Control your temper and avoid criticism. Please, for God's sake, my dear ladies and gentlemen, do not criticize your children. And no threatening. Don't threaten them, saying, if you don't do this, I won't give this, I won't give this, I won't do that. So don't do that, and don't ignore them. Please, for God's sake, don't ignore them. They are your children, our children, and they don't know anybody other than us. We are the people who are chosen by the Almighty to take care of them. So you have to be always with them and never ignore the children, and no negative comparisons with other children. Never compare your child with others. And I'm going to talk about the how you have to increase the standard of life, because this is how you are going to be an example for your child, and the child will know whether the standard of living is important or standard of life is important. Whether you drove a Volkswagen or a Bentley, the road remains the same. And whether you speak in your Samsung or your iPhone X, whoever you're calling or whoever calls you remains the same. And whether you're flying in an economy or flying in a business class, wherever you're heading, the destination is going to be the same. And you're wearing a normal watch or a diamond fixed watch, the time is going to be the same. So it is quite amazing, actually. There is nothing wrong with you wear Omega or you wear nothing wrong with Bentley. God bless you with all that. If you have it, drive it, no problem. But in trying to enhance and improve and improvise the standard of your living, please do not compromise with the standard of your life. It is not the standard of your living that makes you happy. It is the standard of your life that makes you happy. And very often we forget to give attention to those things that can truly make us happy, which is why things that we are talking about have utility value and not happiness value. Travel business class or first class, no problem. Drive a Bentley, no problem. But doing so, never ever compromise on those principles that also improve the standard of your life. And therefore, some people are so poor. In my dictionary, they are very, very poor, absolutely poor. What they all have is only money. And you're the poorest person in the world, according to me, because there is more to life than money, and there is way more to life than what money can buy. And therefore, if you truly want to know how rich you are, if you drop a tear and see how many hands that come forward to wipe the tear, you will know really the value of life. Because we need to understand this, and we need to make our children understand this. Ladies and gentlemen, and our increased standard of life are not in things, it is in people. It is in relationships. It is in meaningful, heartfelt, deep bonding love that brings fulfillment to your heart. It's those meaningful exchanges of love that we share with our relationships that brings true joy to the heart. It's something that brings the greatest fulfillment we very conveniently neglect in just running after increasing and enhancing these standards of living. So we need to concentrate on our standard of life, our relationships. And final thoughts, my child is not giving me a hard time. My child is having a hard time. Understand that. And when you keep criticizing your kids, they don't stop loving you, they stop loving themselves. And children crave our praise, validation, and approval. As parents, sometimes we have high expectations for our kids. We also worry about their future and want them to grow successful, happy adults. As a result, we try to correct their actions or give them. But it's important to remember that our children take our feedback to their heart. They internalize our words. When we say, that wasn't nice, What they often hear is, "You are not nice." So be careful, thoughtful, and intentional with your words is very, very important. And when the flower does not blossom, you fix the environment in which it grows and not the flower. The children are like flowers. Don't compare your child to others. There is no comparison between the sun and the moon. They shine when it's their time. And happiness is a choice, not a result. Nothing will make you happy unless you decide to be happy. Your happiness will not come to you, it can only come from you. And children don't do what you say, they do what you do. And last but not the least, I would like to give a small story about the connection and the contact. A monk was being interviewed by a journalist from New York, and the journalist asked, "Sir, in your last lecture, you were talking about contact and connection, and I was not able to understand. Can you please explain me?" The monk smiled and, apparently deviating from the question, asked the journalist, "Are you from New York?" The journalist said yes. And the journalist felt that the monk was trying to avoid answering his question, since this was his very personal and unwarranted question. Yet the journalist said, "Yes, how about your family members?" Then the journalist said, like, "Mother has expired and father is there, and three brothers and one sister, all are married." The monk, with a smile on his face, asked again, "Do you talk to your father?" The journalist looked visibly annoyed. The monk said, "When did you talk to him last?" The journalist, suppressing his annoyance, said, "Maybe a month ago." The monk asked, "Do you brothers and sisters meet often? When did you all meet last? When did you have your family gathering?" At this point, sweat appeared on the forehead of the journalist. Now, who is interviewing whom? The monk or the journalist? It seemed that the monk was interviewing the journalist. With a sigh, the journalist said, "We all met last Christmas, 2 years ago." The monk said, "How many days did you all stay together?" The journalist, wiping his sweat on the brow, he said, "3 days." Monk said, "How much time did you spend with your family, father, sitting right beside him?" The journalist looked perplexed and embarrassed and started scribbling something on the paper. The monk asked, "Did you have breakfast, lunch, and dinner together? Did you ask him how he was? Did you ask how his days are passing without your mother?" Drops of tears coming out started to flow from the eyes of the journalist. The monk held the hand of the journalist and said, "Don't be embarrassed. Don't be upset. Don't be sad. I'm sorry if I have hurted you unknowingly. But this is basically the answer to your question about contact and connection. You have contact with your father, but you don't have connection with him. You're not connected to him. Connections is between heart and heart, sitting together, sharing meals, and caring for each other, touching, shaking hands, having eye contact, spending some time together. You brothers and sisters have contact, but you don't have connection with each other. The journalist wiped his eyes and said, "Thanks for teaching me a fine and unforgettable lesson." This is what is the reality today. This is what is the reality today. My dear ladies and gentlemen, whether at home or in the society, everybody has lots and lots of contacts, but there is no connection, no communication, no emotional attachment. Everybody is in their own. Let us not maintain contacts. Let us remain connected, caring, sharing, and spending time with all our dear ones. This is what we need to teach our children too. We need to stand as an example. Stay blessed. Mantra of success is happiness. If your child is happy, that is what is the success. You need to teach the child that happiness is what is success. With this, I complete my session. And you have any questions, I'm ready to answer. Thank you.
I think there was some real insights and pearls of wisdom for me also. I mean, the real
aha moment. Dr. Usha, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you, but what you spoke earlier, I couldn't hear. So there's a question from Vinay. What do we do if the child is not happy with his results despite putting best efforts? Yes. More than parents feeling unhappy, you have asked that the child is not happy. Then we need to find where the problem is. Actually, even putting efforts, have you heard of Pareto principle? If you put 20% of efforts, you get 80% results. And in some cases, you put 80% effort and you get only 20% result. So we need to have a critical thinking in this and analyze right from the beginning how the efforts are being put by the child and understand whether the child is putting efforts on the most important jobs or in the right manner, or the child is putting efforts on the wrong things. 80% of the result efforts, whatever the child is putting, is only he or she is getting 20% of results. So we need to identify the most important places where the efforts have to be put. So that structure you have to design for the child by having a critical thinking right from the source. You have to analyze, and step by step you have to find where there is a flaw, where the child is doing a mistake in putting efforts but not getting results. So that analysis have to be done in a step-by-step manner, whereas you will be able to identify the step exactly where we are going wrong. Any more questions? You can please type on the chat. How do we keep a stress-free environment at home? Because so what I do is, see, I always start my day with a smile. So I get a lot of happiness hormones in me whenever I get up, and also as soon as I see my family members when they wake up, I'll just start the day with an enthusiasm. For my son, if I see him today morning, he will be working late night, and I will get up early. And morning, when I see him getting up, the way you wish him, the way you wish him good morning or hi, you got up, what would you like to eat or what would you like to drink? So that enthusiasm of the mother or the father, the smile, that gets transferred to the child automatically. When I smile, naturally he has to smile back. When you smile, believe me, you get a lot of happiness hormones coming out of your mind. So stress is something you bring in. If I ask somebody to show me the stress, you can't show it because it is not there within you. At situations, you get it. you get triggered, and then you get into that stressful situation. So you are only doing that. Your mind is only allowing you to get into a stress or pressure. So it is all in you. If you have a control of your mind, and if you want to actually be happy, always stress free, if you wish wholeheartedly, if you wish that yes, I wanted to be stress free, you can be stress free. If you want to take everything on your head and feel even day after tomorrow's work, if you start feeling worried from today onwards, you will have stress. Things will go on only when you have a peace of mind and a structured planning and happiness, especially happiness. So practice to smile. Smile, smile, smile. That is my mantra. I'm always like that only. And everybody sees me, they will tell me, ma'am, how you are always energetic. Even at the midnight, I'll be like that only, because I am interested in living my life meaningfully. I value my life. Every second of my life is a gift given by God. I don't want it to be spoiled by anybody. First of all, not by me. And I don't want to get stressed and spoil that minute of my life. I want to be happy. So it's all in your mind. If there are conflicting opinion between parents about career of a child, how can it be sorted out? Okay, so the as we all as career mentors, we keep telling first of all the meaning of career actually. So it is not. You need to know about the child's interest. Even the child should know what he or she is capable about. And when they choose a career, they need to know in and out about the career first of all. See, people see the flight. You know, like when we were young, when we see the aeroplane flying, we all wanted to become a pilot. Everybody wishes to become a pilot, because that looks something fancy for us, something out of the world. So we only see from here how it looks. We don't know how really it looks, or how it really the pilot profession, how it will be. So whenever a person decides to do something or decides to take up a career, to my knowledge as an educator, I feel that you need to do an exhaustive research about the career. And as we do this psychometric analysis and the career assessment of the child, we will be able to match whether their interest, their abilities, their mental strengths align with that of that particular career. Not only that, their interest also should align with that, for which the child should know everything about the nature of the job. So when you all do a research together and expose everything, and you have a convincing thing, like you want to tell the child that the child is taking a wrong career, then you need to justify that. Similarly, the child should also be able to justify why the child wanted to take up that career. After understanding that this is what is the career going to be, this is what is I am, and I can easily enjoy doing that job, then I don't think there will be a mismatch. So, because you have asked one more from me, how to make the child move away from trying to emulate that popular guy or girl in the group rather than respect and love themselves. Okay. So, valuing our own self is definitely important. And many people feel that they should be more prominent, they should be a center of attraction where people praise them, appreciate them. That is the nature of a person. Like we ourselves, we see in the psychometric tool, like certain things are inbuilt. Like we want appreciation always. We want somebody to motivate us. Always, people should appreciate us. So that certain things will be there. But when you explain about what is the long-lasting thing, which will give an in-depth satisfaction, as parents, we need to explain them with some analogies, with some examples, what makes them feel content. That ultimately you need content, because these appreciations and becoming center of attraction and becoming the hero and all is not long lasting. Actually, every time, every minute they wanted that, the content will never come. So you need to explain them what is the actual meaning of life, which will make them feel contented, and which is permanent, which is long lasting. So we need to explain the child. active attitude of gratitude can be taught to the children. That is why I said, when you have your dinner, sit together and talk about what made you happy, who are the people in your life who are responsible for your good things, success. So when you start talking about good things, children will also, you can ask the child, what good thing happened in your life, who supported you today, who motivated you today, who is your inspirer, whose speech you listen more, whom do you follow more. So this type of things, will allow them and make them to think more about respecting their own self, increasing their value, and loving themselves. Appreciation, that is the ultimate. Any more questions? Oh, Nupur Joshi, thank you so much for your feedback, and all the participants, those who have given a wonderful feedback. I'm happy about it. How to have a balance in online and offline learnings being a student, teacher, and parent. What exactly, Vincent? How to have a balance in online and offline learnings being a student? Student, teacher, and parent. Online means, you mean to say digital? Can you be much more clearer on this question? No, on-screen learning and off-screen learning. See, in on-screen learning, it will be one-way communication. Like you cannot experience. You can only see. When you implement, that is off-screen learning. Like if you learn something, if some speeches you listen to, and if you have an internal communication, that is what we call it as a languaging. So if you start implementing that in your life, in a real situation, that learning definitely will give an experience, and you will not forget it forever. Whereas what you learn from the videos, YouTube, all those things, you can learn something, or you can study something. Learning comes only when you experience. So you can have a blended learning. You can learn from all those online courses and other things, and you need to have a practice session to really understand. So online alone will not give you that experience. So experience comes only when you practice. So that needs an offline session also. That's what I've understood about the question. Nupur Joshi has asked, do you have this type of question, the session again? Yes, definitely you will be having sessions. And I have shared you the YouTube link. My YouTube is Usha Ishwaran. You have nearly 1,000 videos in that. And you can also watch several playlists are there. Right from a lot of motivational, career guidance, a lot of 21st century skills, parenting. So many topics are there in that. And you can also reach me with the phone numbers. And Dia will also be conducting a lot of sessions. Thank you, Snigdha. Acceptancy issues in society or among friends. How to make them aware about acceptancy? See, there is no... I always feel like you be yourself. You don't have to worry that somebody should accept you. First of all, if you know the value of yourself, why should someone else accept you? They are also human beings who have come to this world to live like you. If you are confident, yes, I'm good at it, and I can do something good, then there is no need for someone else to come and accept to tell you that you are good. So that self-confidence and self-esteem should be developed in the child and our own self also. And we don't have to get depressed, or we don't have to look forward for someone to accept you, someone to appreciate you actually. But that can be done by parents, so that the children will not look for such acceptance in the society or among their friends. So that is what is the role of the parent. So parent should make the child feel that yes, I am confident, I know I'm good. That feel should be there for the child. So I have already told you about peer pressure, how we can help Nupur Joshi. Actually, we need to motivate the child, make the child feel self-confident. First of all, we should not criticize the child. The parent themselves should not criticize the child, because the child know you first than knowing the society. So they believe you, they trust you. And the first word coming out of the parent saying something bad about the child gets so depressed. Very low self-esteem occurs in the child's mind. So first acceptance, and the last acceptance for my in my dictionary, I can say it should be from parents. If we don't accept them and we don't appreciate them, who else will do that? They are our children. So you have to first motivate them and understand the process what they are taking, because the efforts what they are taking, you should monitor that. When the child is writing an exam, preparing for the exam, attending some classes, and those moments you are not there with the child, you do not know what book the child is reading, how the child is reading, and is it sufficient enough, material is sufficient enough for the child to write the exam. If you don't monitor all these things, and when the result come, if you go and tell the child that you have not got good marks, then you are not there to support the child, and you don't have any right to comment or criticize the child. You be there with the child right from the beginning. Talk to the child when the classes are going on, identify where the child is lacking, what the child is not understanding, how you can help the child understand the subject. If you can't teach the subject, go to the school, talk to the teacher and tell that the child is not understanding this particular thing. If you are there during the process and you are there supporting their efforts, definitely you will not comment on their results, because you know how efforts the child has put. And keep encouraging, keep motivating. Automatically the confidence level of the child will be high. Sunil Kumar, hello ma'am, I'm a student who has passed 12th but can't complete graduation. So how do I comfort my mom about my career or job? Why you are not able to complete your graduation? Naturally, every parent will insist you to complete your graduation to get a job. The days have not come where people don't look at your certificates and give you a job if you have skill sets. So naturally, the parents are worried about your marks and graduation because they wanted you to be happy. They wanted you to have a happy life. They don't want you to suffer. That is the basic idea behind every parent who is behind a child, that they should study well. So see, you cannot convince them. Like you have to find a way, prove yourself, take up entrepreneurship if you're good in some business or good in some idea, or if you are able to fill some gaps in the society. You have to prove, only then they will be convinced, okay, my son can take care of himself. So that satisfaction you can give only when you prove. So you have to take up something and then prove yourself. What if they not listening zone and wants to be alone all the time? So as I said, you would have lost your connectivity somewhere with your child. See, the child should look for you, search for you. They should not run away from you. That sort of emotional bonding we should bring. So far, if it had happened like that, don't bother about it. Don't worry how to redo it. Slowly add positivity in the child's life. Slowly start caring for the life. Make the child understand that you're caring. So naturally, when you start doing all these things, the child will seek for you, and they will start listening to you. First of all, we should stand as an example for which we need to follow some basic ethics and morals. So these are all the things which we need to follow. What are the suggestions to handle hyperactive child of 11th? So as I said, every teen is hyperactive, especially during lockdown. They have lot of energy and they want lot of what to say, like they want to exert their energy. So you need to give some activity where they can bring out their energy, so that those things are very essential. Hyperactive kid will need some adventures. They'll be looking for adventurous activities where they can vent out all those hyperactive feel. How to get them plan for their career? They are blank. When we ask him what is the stream they are planning, not yet thought about it. How can the child decide the career? What do they know about the career? That is why we are all there. Diya is there for that only. Actually, we need to go in a structured, methodical manner to decide the career, to design the career path of the child. The Diya is a very good tool where it can extract all the abilities of the child, the interest of the child, and also they can easily match that with the futuristic careers. So if you follow this methodology and then you design a career, even at this age, we don't know about all the careers. There are so many thousands of careers around us, and we know only which field we are in, and how the child will know about it. So it is not the mistake of the child. You have to go take the child, like Diya, you will have a career mentoring session where you will first of all analyze about the child's abilities and strengths. Then you have to appropriately show the right path for the career and also design a career path, what to do next. So that is the right way, and that is the responsibility of the parent also. How can we navigate the conversation with the teenager children whose focus is money, but no clarity in what and how they want to reach there? So that is why I told you the standard of life. So you have to show them, like it's not the money alone that matters. Or if you want to earn money, okay, that is one part. I'm not commenting on that, but everything needs a structured path. So that you have to explain. See, when we hear a lot of stories, people were in a very, very low level. They have become very big in life. But we have not seen the struggles what they have undergone. So you have to show, you have to make the child read about the failure stories and the struggles they have undergone to reach that level. Any rich person, if you go and analyze their life, they would have crossed so many hurdles. So as a parent, we can take few examples and explain them. There is no direct flight from here to earn money. You need to go through certain steps. And what are all those steps? You need to cross those ethical way and methodical way, a structured way. Then you can reach a certain place where you can make money. So it is a responsibility of the parent to explain and make them understand, not immediately telling them they are wrong. They may be wrong, but we need to justify that, why they are wrong.
Okay, this is Vikas here. Dr. Usha, can you hear me?
Yeah, Vikas.
Yeah, so I don't see any more questions here. So it was a fantastic, fabulous session, ma'am. I think we have already seen some great feedback here.
Oh,
And
great.
for me also, it was quite insightful and some great pearls of wisdom. The one thing that stood out for me, the great aha moment was, if you don't listen to your little things, listen to the little things when they're little,
Yeah.
they won't tell you the big things when they're big.
Yes.
I think that also in some way bridges that contact versus connection divide that you talked about.
Yes.
So great, ma'am. It was fantastic to hear you today, and we hope to have many more such sessions with Dhea. And also, I think I will surely go back to your YouTube channel and listen to more of such sessions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity. I thank the DIA organizers also to give me this opportunity today to talk on teen parenting. And thank you all the attendees, participants, and for your wonderful feedback and the wonderful questions. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.